Hey there guys, in today's video I wanted to talk about prepping foraging toys for parrots in advance. Sometimes you're getting a late start in the morning or you just don't have as much time as you would like to put together something absolutely ridiculous and over the top. On those days, we still want to make sure that our birds are getting mentally stimulated, getting everything they need in terms of their enrichment. So in this video, I'm going to show you some of my favorite toys to prep in advance. I can prep a ton of them. Maybe if I have a day off, I can have them all ready to go. I wanted to show you guys some things to take into consideration when you are storing your toys. That way you can make sure they stay nice and safe and ready to use for your birds. But also, in this video, I'm going to have a really cool idea for a way that you guys can help birds in need. So if that is something you guys are interested in seeing, any part of that, if any of you guys are interested in seeing, you want to make sure to stick around because that's going to be coming up right after this. Hey there guys, this is Jack over at Hi Red Bird, where I am tirelessly working to find new ways to make the keeping of exotic animals and pets more exciting, more affordable, and ultimately more enjoyable. Now, one thing I'm going to say, I've done a ton of different video tutorials. I've shown people how to do play stands, how to do cage furniture, how to do things to better take care of their birds. A lot of people encounter me and think that I have all the time in the world. And that is just not the case. There are some days where I am running late for work. There are some days where I'm just not in the best mood. I'm tired. Maybe I get sick. Maybe I just don't feel like putting forth hours and hours of effort into providing things for my birds. And if that's the case, I still want to make sure that my birds are getting everything they need. The enrichment, whether or not I have the energy to put together something ridiculous on any given day, is still going to be a need for my animals. That mental stimulation is going to be critically important in providing for my birds. So the solution is to prep things in advance. So in this video, I wanted to show you guys a couple of my favorite toys to prep in advance. Now, there's a couple of things you need to know. You want to make sure that you are going to store these items appropriately. Since I'm going to make foraging toys, and since I can make foraging toys that actually do have some food items in them, I want to make sure that those are going to be safe. So I'm going to use something like a plastic storage container. Let me try to get this angled so you guys are not blinded by the ring light. I feel like that could be a song. When I use a plastic storage container to hold parrot toys, first of all, I want to use a new plastic storage container. I don't want to use something that was holding car parts or anything else that might have left a residue. Even if you can clean it up, I don't want to run the risk of there being chemicals that could potentially impact the health and well-being of my birds by contaminating toys that I put in there. Now, I like to use clear plastic ones, and the reason for that, if little bits of shredded paper are in your toys and they start to fall to the bottom, if any of the bits of leather that you're using leave little crumbly bits, if you leave seed, in a plastic container, it is going to be a lot harder for you to ignore, so you're going to be more likely to clean it up. If you have solid walls on the container, it's a lot easier to ignore the mess. And we all know, if you have animals, mess with animals charges interest. So if you are not cleaning it up on a regular basis, it is going to get worse. It is going to get terribly out of hand. So let's avoid that by just using this clear container. Now, I also want to make sure that it is a solid closing container. You'll notice that this one right here, it has the latches. Those are going to be really, really good. This one has a really solid edge. You can see I can get a little bit of flex in it, but not much. That's going to help deter things like rodents that might try to break in. I really like to use these ones that have a gasket on the inside. That gasket is going to help protect against things like fruit flies and seed moths and things like that. So those are going to be some things that you want to take into consideration when it comes to storing your toys. Now, I told you guys that this was going to be a really cool way for you guys to do something to help birds in need. So I have this container right here. It is currently empty. For every new subscriber to the High Red Bird channel over the next month, I will make one more toy to go in that container that'll be delivered to Magnolia Exotic Bird Sanctuary. If you'd like to know a little bit more about them, I will put a link in the description section down below. I'll also tell you guys a little bit about them at the end of this video, but I know a lot of people are going to want to know what are some of the toys that I'm going to use to fill this container. So I do want to show you some of my favorite foraging toys that are super easy to make in advance. All right, guys, so the first toy is proof that it really doesn't have to be overly complicated. For that, we are going to need some bamboo finger traps. Now, I know some people can be concerned about using these. Just make sure you get ones that are of good quality. I've seen some that are not of good quality. The dye will leave a residue on your fingers. It will have a really strong odor. I've actually seen some that use staples to hold the ends shut, which really leaves me questioning, how is that meant as a toy for children to play with? But as long as you get ones that are of decent quality, these are something that I'm comfortable using for my birds. I'm also going to use things like tongue depressors. We're going to use some shredded paper. I have it in a cup to try to conceal and contain as much of that mess as possible. And then, of course, some seeds, since I said we were going to be building these as foraging toys. Now, this is going to be one of the easiest toys you can make. All I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. If I push it together, it makes it a lot easier. I'm going to take some shredded paper. I am going to fill one end. Now, this is one of those things, it's a really easy project, but it can be just a little bit messy. So if you have kids in your life that would like to help you build things for your birds, this can be a really good thing to do. Now that I've blocked off one side, I'm going to take, here I have a single piece of papaya. I'm going to go ahead, drop that in, and I am going to then take a little bit more shredded paper, and I am going to push that in on this side. So that is the basic form of this finger trap toy. If you want to make it a little bit more complicated, make it harder for your bird to get to, pull it so that it elongates. It's going to hold on to all of those things on the inside. It'll make it a little bit harder for your bird to grab. Now, you can also do that with something like one of these tongue depressors. It's just one more level of difficulty. It's something else that they can hold on to. And once we fill this with different items, again, I'm going to take a little bit of this shredded paper. I'll put it in on one side. And actually, I'm going to pull this out a little bit, start to feed the shredded paper in on that other side, because then as I shove the tongue depressor in, it should help pull it through to the other side. Of course, it is going to be sticking out a bit because it's shredded paper and it gets everywhere, and that's why birds absolutely enjoy it. Here I have a piece of dried banana. Again, you're going to notice all of the food items that I'm using here are dried. If you want to store these items, if you want to be able to have them in that container for any period of time, they need to be items that are shelf stable. So maybe a seed mix, maybe dehydrated food items, but you want to pay attention to how old they are, how long they've been in there. You want to avoid things that have a high moisture content. If I were to cut up fresh strawberries and make these toys with these, they would have no storage capacity. So there's a couple of different ways that we can use a basic finger trap just to make a really, really simple foot toy. And you don't have to have the food items in there. I've got a ton here, but some of them, maybe I just want to be a basic foot toy. I don't have to use food every single time. Remember, if your birds were in the wild, not every single tree has something they can eat in it. So giving them things that are things they can destroy, things they can look through, is going to still provide that mental stimulation, especially if you're giving them things like these that have those food items in there. Your bird is at least going to want to look when it comes to a thing like this, so that'll still be something that they're going to tear apart, trying to see if there's food in there, but there doesn't always have to be food in there. And as you guys can see, we put together 3 foot toys in a matter of a minute and a half. The next toy we're going to build is one of my absolute favorites, and it uses one of the easiest, cheapest things you'll have in your toy making arsenal, a brown paper bag. So I'm going to take the brown paper lunch bag. I'm going to tear off this piece. You can use scissors if you want, but you can tear it. You really don't need to have that be the cleanest line ever. This piece I am going to save. I can obviously string that on a skewer, give my bird something shreddable. When you're making a ton of bird toys, you start to learn that a lot of pieces, even things like this, can have their use. But now that I have this tube of brown paper, I'm going to go ahead, fold it in on itself. Now what I'm looking for here is I want that inner and outer edge to be even with each other. Inside, that's going to give me a nice little cavity where I can put things like shredded paper. If you're going to buy shredded paper as a toy part, you might as well be using it. I have yet to meet a bird that did not have at least a little bit of fun with shredded paper. So it's definitely something that I like to incorporate in my bird toys. At least I think that when I'm making the bird toys. I'm less happy about incorporating it when it comes time to clean up the mess after playing with bird toys. But I can now do, maybe if I wanted to do some of these smaller seeds, that would be a good option in here. If I wanted to do some larger things, here I have some large treats that I can use. This one is actually probably going to go to a green-winged macaw, so I'm very, very happy with that amount of food item. Make sure when you are putting these together, you don't want to overdo them. If I was putting that much food in here for this to be a budgie toy, that would pretty much be their diet for the day. So make sure you're paying attention to what birds you're planning to give these to, plan accordingly. Now that I have that all filled, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just crimp down around the sides. Now this is what I call a foraging donut, and I love these for birds because I think they have so many different options. If I wanted to, I could put this on a toy hanger. I could actually, if I had a large quick link, I could mount that to the top center of the enclosure. For something like a budgie, this could be something that they're actively perching in. But since I said I was going to be giving this to something like a green-winged macaw, this can work as a foot toy as well. And if you have perches that are attached to the sides of your animal's enclosure that are open at one side, this can be a great option for that, because if you have that perch in that enclosure, you can slip that over the top. So there are so many different ways to present these. And honestly, brown paper bags are about as cheap as you can get when it comes to making bird toys. So I can make 50 to 100 of these for a matter of, a couple dollars. So that really is going to be a great option. And I've seen so many birds that absolutely love these. I actually did a presentation for a group in Germany, and I was overwhelmed to see an Amazon that was in its 30s, that before it saw this, never really got enrichment, never really was interested in enrichment. Its new owner provided it a foraging donut, and it was so excited about it. So I definitely encourage you guys to try these out. All right, guys, now for this last toy, we're actually gonna make a really fun hanging toy. So here I have a piece of bird safe rope. This is sold to be specifically used for making bird toys. You're going to need something to hang a hanging toy on, obviously. So whatever base you use, just make sure it is something that is safe for your bird. There's a lot of different options for rope, twine, paper rope. Honestly, stainless steel skewers are going to be one of my favorite things to use here because there's a little bit of a upfront cost, but once you have them, they are pretty much indestructible as long as you use them appropriately. Now I'm going to also need some little cups. I'm going to need something that can be a cover for those cups. Here I'm using index cards, but obviously scale this towards the size and skill level of your bird. Here I'm using some pressed paper condiment cups and some index cards, but if you have a very, very destructive macaw, maybe you would want to do this with halves of coconut shell and chunks of 2x4. It's completely up to you. Now we're also going to need some shredded paper. Let's all pretend to be surprised that we're using shredded paper on yet another foraging toy. And of course, a seed mix that we are going to use to be what our birds are foraging for. Now, when you are building a toy from a tutorial like this, one thing I want to encourage you guys to pay attention to: which direction are you working from? You guys will notice I already have the loop tied into my piece of bird safe rope. The reason for that, if I tried to record me tying a knot, I guarantee I would look like a complete idiot. Meanwhile, if nobody is watching me, I can tie knots in the rope without even thinking about it. So I made sure that I have the loop already tied, which means I'm going to be working on this toy from the top down. You could also just tie a knot on one side and work from the bottom up, and you would finish by tying the loop at the end. Both ways can work. I know people who will do it both ways. It really is a matter of preference. The only thing you need to pay attention to is which way are you doing it. It'll change the order that you have to put items on to your toy hanger. So I'm going to start, since I'm going from the top down, I'm going to start with a couple of index cards. These are going to be the covers for one of my cups. By using a couple of index cards, this is also going to have a good amount of shredding potential as well. And then I'm just going to do one of my cups. And then I'm going to repeat that process. So I'm going to do a couple of the index cards, and there's nobody who is going to police you if you want to use one index card, two index cards, three index cards. If you want to change it up so there's a different number every single time, that's completely up to you as well. But I'm going to do a couple of index cards or a couple of covers, and then I'm going to do one of the cups or cavities. The cavities are where we're going to hide things for our birds. So here, I'm going to go ahead. I've got 3 index cards this time. I'm living dangerously. Not really. I'm going to go ahead. Although trying to thread them all at once might have been a little overly ambitious. I'm going to go ahead, thread this cup. Then again, a couple of index cards. Actually, I'm just going to do one because I want to end on an index card, and I only have one prepped. So I have the cups that you guys can see. I have the index cards that you guys can see. Now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to tie this. I don't want it to be, I don't want to pull it, completely taut. I don't want it to be squeezing the entire thing together, but I do want it to hold its shape. So I'm going to say there should be pretty good. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead, trim off my excess. Now, the reason that I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of slack, I can now go through and squeeze in a little bit of that shredded paper. I don't have the most maneuverability, and as I fill these cups with shredded paper, I am going to have less and less, but I'm still going to be able to get it in there. And I don't know about you, but my birds, seeing the shredded paper erupting from every single place would be very, very excited, especially if you use something for your covers. Maybe you use thin pieces of wood. Maybe you use pieces of leather. You can change up all of the available textures, so then this is a really fun tactile toy as well. You know what? We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna go on the other side. I want this to look like so much fun, and it really doesn't take any time to do this last little bit right here. Once I have that done and ready to go, I am gonna go through and do a few pieces of food items. Now, I don't need to have food items in every single container. Not every foraging opportunity in the wild would be a win. Not every container or every cavity that I have here has to have food items. So I actually did 3 out of the 4 have a small food item hidden in there somewhere. But there's also shredding, there's looking for those food items. That's the main thing that we're looking for. And then of course, I can then hang this up using the hanging mechanism of my choice. Stainless steel quick links are always a good option, but I've also shown you guys things like acrylic ball hangers that are going to be a really, really safe option for a lot of birds who otherwise might get into a little trouble with some hanging mechanisms. But there is yet another really fun, really easy to make foraging toy. And again, I can make a bunch of these in an afternoon, have them ready to go. All right, guys, so hopefully those ideas are things that you found helpful. They're really easy toys to make. They're things that, you know, if you have kids that want to help you take care of your birds, if you have friends that want to help you take care of your birds, maybe you have a parrot toy making afternoon. You get 3 or 4 people to come over, you get everything set up, and you can make an entire storage tote of toys, which will be something you can give your birds for months afterward. Now, I'm really, really excited about these ideas, and I wanted to draw attention to Magnolia Exotic Bird Sanctuary. I have known about them for years, and they are an absolutely wonderful facility that works on providing for birds no matter what their needs are. So they will take in birds that have medical issues, birds that have feather plucking, birds that have arthritis, blindness, things that have all sorts of medical issues. They will take them in, they will care for them. And the really, really nice thing about them is they will adopt out birds that have suitable homes, but they are also prepared to just take care of the birds that, as unfortunate as it is to say, that nobody else really seems to want. There are birds like that people don't want to sign up for the trouble of birds that are feather plucking, birds that have special needs and special issues. They're willing to do that. And those birds do still need a lot of different things, and their team of volunteers works really hard to provide those things. So one thing I wanted to do to try to help is to prepare them some toys that they can use to provide for their birds. That mental enrichment, that stimulation is going to be critically important. And I want you guys to help me out. So this video is coming out on February 9th. Until March 9th, every new subscriber to the Hi Redbird YouTube channel will be one more toy that I am making and sending off to Magnolia Exotic Bird Sanctuary. So if you guys find the videos on this channel useful, if you have friends that take care of birds and could benefit from tutorials and things like that, if you have friends that just like birds, if they subscribe to this channel, if they watch this video, even if they're not somewhere where they can volunteer to help birds, if they are not able to contribute to donate to help birds, both of which are things that Magnolia does accept, at the very least, if you subscribe to the Hi Redbird YouTube channel over the next month, you will be helping birds in need, because that'll be one more toy that they are getting. So I definitely encourage you guys to share this video with any of your friends who have a love of birds. By all of us working together, we can definitely make this world a better place for them. And I would love to hear from you guys if you have any other suggestions on things you would like to see me do to help birds in need. Please leave a suggestion in the comment section down below. I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I am very much hoping, fingers crossed, that by the time this month is over, I am overwhelmed with the toys that I have to make for Magnolia Exotic Bird Sanctuary. So I certainly hope that you guys can all help make that a reality. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. I do need to say thank you to my Patreon patrons for helping to make these videos possible. You can find out more by visiting Hi Red Bird on Patreon or clicking the link in the description section down below if you would like more information. Thanks!